Thomas had always been fascinated by the small, crawling, flying creatures that most people barely noticed. While other children in his neighborhood played soccer or rode their bikes, Thomas could often be found kneeling in the grass, his nose nearly touching the ground as he observed the intricate world of insects. His mother called him her little entomologist, though at 9 years old, Thomas didn't know what that meant. He only knew that he loved bugs more than anything. His bedroom was a miniature natural history museum. Glass jars lined his shelves, each one containing a different specimen carefully collected and labeled in his uneven handwriting. A magnifying glass lay perpetually on his nightstand, ready for impromptu investigations of any new find. But his greatest treasure was a field guide to insects, its pages worn from constant use. It had been a gift from his understanding grandfather, who was the only one who truly understood his passion. One Saturday afternoon, under the golden warmth of the summer sun, Thomas set out on one of his usual bug hunting expeditions. Equipped with his net, notebook, and a special bug vacuum his father had helped him make from a jar and some tubing, he was ready for another adventure. The air hummed with life around him as he wandered beyond his usual boundaries, following a particularly vibrant blue dragonfly that danced just out of reach. "Come on, just a little closer," Thomas whispered, his voice filled with excitement. The dragonfly led him to the edge of the neighborhood, where the houses gave way to overgrown fields. There, half hidden by tall grass and wild blackberry bushes, stood an old house Thomas had never noticed before. Its peeling paint and broken windows suggested it had been empty for years. Most children would have turned back, but not Thomas. He saw only possibility. Abandoned buildings were perfect habitats for interesting insects. With a sense of anticipation building in his chest, he approached the house cautiously. As he stepped onto the worn porch, something caught his expert eye. Beneath the sagging eaves of the house, he spotted a large, papery structure. His breath quickened as he recognized it immediately from his field guide. A wasp nest, and a substantial one at that. Thomas had never been this close to one before. "I'll just look for a minute," he muttered to himself, edging nearer, reciting the rules he'd read about wasp nests. "No sudden movements, stay calm, don't swat." The nest was a masterpiece of natural engineering. Its gray paper layers formed perfect hexagonal chambers, and wasps came and went in a steady stream, their wings glinting in the sunlight. Thomas was so absorbed in watching their organized activity that he didn't notice the rotten porch board until it was too late. With a loud crack, the wood gave way beneath him. For one terrifying second, Thomas felt weightless, as if the world had suspended itself in midair. Then, with a jarring thud, he landed hard in the darkness below. Dust filled his nose as he coughed and blinked, trying to adjust to the sudden change. The small rectangle of light from the hole above him was the only thing he could see clearly. Slowly, his eyes adjusted, and Thomas realized he was in a root cellar. The stone walls were damp, and the cool, earthy air smelled of mildew. His right leg throbbed from where he'd landed awkwardly, but when he moved it, nothing seemed to be broken. He pushed himself to his feet, trying to assess possible ways to climb out. But then he heard it, the angry buzzing. The disturbance had agitated the wasps. Dozens, then hundreds, poured through the opening above him, their buzzing growing louder in the confined space. Thomas pressed himself against the farthest wall, remembering everything he'd read about wasp behavior. He stayed perfectly still, not even daring to swat at the wasps that landed on his arms and legs. Each sting felt like a hot needle prick, but Thomas bit his lip and remained motionless. He counted in his head to distract himself. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, he murmured. The wasps investigated their intruder, hovering and buzzing around him. After what felt like hours, but was probably only a few minutes, most of them lost interest and returned to their nest. But Thomas wasn't safe yet. The opening above him was too high to reach, and his attempts to stack nearby crates only resulted in more noise that agitated the wasps again. With a heavy sigh, he slumped against the wall, his legs swelling where he had been stung. The cellar was growing darker as the afternoon faded toward evening. Back home, Thomas's mother glanced at the clock for the third time in 10 minutes. "He's never this late," she said, worry creeping into her voice. "Probably found something interesting," his father replied, setting down the tools he'd been working with. But even as he spoke, he stood up. "I'll go check the usual spots." As dusk settled, their concern turned to alarm. Neighbors joined the search, flashlights cutting through the gathering darkness. It was old Mr. Peters, who had lived on the street for 40 years, who thought to check the abandoned Wilson place. His voice echoed through the crumbling house. "Thomas, down here," Mr. Peters called. When they finally pulled Thomas out of the cellar, he was pale and shivering. His right leg was grotesquely swollen, and the sting marks were clearly visible. At the emergency room, the doctor's eyebrows rose in surprise as she examined the number of stings. "Goodness, you must have been very brave," the doctor said, treating his wounds. The next day, while Thomas rested on the couch with his bandaged leg propped up, a police officer and a pest control specialist came to discuss the abandoned house. "We'll have the nest removed safely," the pest control specialist explained. "The town will board up the house properly so no one else gets hurt." Thomas looked up at them with wide eyes, his voice barely above a whisper. "Did anyone save my net?" His parents exchanged glances and then broke into laughter, even after everything that had happened. Thomas was still, in their eyes, their bug-obsessed boy. As Thomas recovered over the following weeks, he added a new section to his insect journal: what to do and not do around wasps. He included sketches of the nest and detailed observations about wasp behavior. His experience hadn't dimmed his love for insects. If anything, it had only deepened his respect for them. By the end of the summer, Thomas was back to collecting. But now, alongside his magnifying glass, he always carried a small first aid kit, just in case. And he never, ever forgot to check the ground before stepping forward. Some lessons, after all, only nature can teach. And Thomas was, without a doubt, an excellent student.